Today, we're going to be talking about the great mutation that's happening in 2027, which is basically when there's going to be a global vibe change. And we're going to be moving from the incarnation cross of planning, which has been going on for the past 400 years, to the incarnation cross of the sleeping phoenix. Now, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of myths going around. Some people think it's going to be like Armageddon for everybody. Then there's other people who think it's going to be utopia for everybody. So who's right? Maybe it is somewhere in the middle or something that may be totally different. And today we're going to be talking about how perhaps what's going to be happening is something closer to the European Dark Ages, where some people are going to experience tough times, but others are going to be experiencing a time of their best life ever, unprecedented freedom and creative expression. And of course, we would like everyone listening to be part of that group of great personal freedom. I'm Chaweon, and I am joined by Breyton. Let's talk about why we should even care about the incarnation cross.
We look at the past 400 years. I'm going to go back and we'll go forward. If we look at the past 400 years, we have had very specific things happen that are cross of planning specific. We didn't have nation states worldwide until the cross of planning. So if you look at the start of the 1600s and you look 400 years before that, you'll see that we didn't have nation states. I mean, if you look at Italy, for instance, wasn't a country until quite recently, right? If we look at, oh, China is a great example. You know, China was always had been warring for thousands of years between factions and regions. It's a great example. It's something that is very new. The nation state, the idea of a country, of a nation, is something that's only been around for the past 400 years. It's very clear. Okay. So we've had this. So everything that we're used to having these countries, nation states, having an agreement with the government, for instance, agreements that are going to fulfill contracts of if you know, if you if you do this in your community, you're going to get this reward. If you follow these laws, you're going to get these benefits. It wasn't like that before the cross planning. If we think about how the last 7 years have been, that's the last genetic cycle of the cross of planning. So what happened in February 2020? COVID. What
Right.
happens in February 2027? The cycle of emoting. So we go from community to individual selfishness. That is the background influence that we're moving from. We're moving from community and collective cooperation to selfishness and integration. And integration is about survival. So we move from a background frequency where everybody cares about each other to a background frequency where people are concerned about themselves. We've had times like this before. The last time we had Across the Sleeping Phoenix was when Egypt was Kemet was at its height 4,000 years ago. That was the last time that we had Across the Sleeping Phoenix. This isn't a new global cross. So we can look at the past if we want to, and it gives us an idea. And then at the same time, this is a 4,000 year difference, right? In where our species is. And we went from being seven-centered to nine-centered. So there's a massive difference in what we are as a species.
Can you describe what seven-centered versus nine-centered means?
Yeah, so we used to have seven centers as a species, the seven-centered being. That's where we get the a lot of the traditions that we have were seven-centered. They were rooted in the seven-centered being.
Like
Um,
energy centers, right?
Energy centers like chakra system, we're not. And that's why this knowledge is here. It's here for the nine-centered being. It's largely for this cycle change. Human design is not here for the cross planning. It's we're just lucky, we have the serendipity that we get to be part of the knowledge and to have it benefit our lives. And as cross-planning beings, but it's not about the cross-planning. It's about the cross of the sleeping phoenix.
That's where a lot of people, they either go into the doom and gloom, the Nostradamus, everything's going to go to shit, or the Age of Aquarius, overly utopian point of view. And it sounds like if you've actually looked at human design, it seems very much like it depends. Some people are going to have a great time and some people not so great. And
Depends on how you live your life. If
yeah,
you live your design, if you live your type, it's going to be different for you than everybody else. Most people are not going to. Most people are not going to live their type. They're not going to live through strategy and authority. And because they're not going to live through strategy and authority, they're going to have a very difficult time navigating a world where there is no longer a social contract. There is no longer a, this is happening, so we're going to send them money. There's no longer a, these people are hungry, so we're going to help them. There is no longer social programs. There is all of these things that we have that take care of people through this tribal collective contract. That's done. There's no reason for that to exist anymore in the context of the background frequency conditioning. So
mm,
nobody's going to be helping others in the way that they are now. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to be like that. I mean, the conditioning is still there for us cross the planning beings. I'm not saying I'm never going to help anybody just because the cycle changed. I'm not saying that. The background frequency, the conditioning that says we have to maintain this social contract. We have to take care of this person because they're from our country or any that conditioning is going to be gone. It doesn't mean that we're not going to carry it in us, right? But it's going to be gone. That is not going to be an overlying, background frequency. So with that change happening and nobody looking out for each other the way that we have, the way that we're used to, right, the material plane, the way that money works is going to change. The stock market, that's a collective cooperation, 100% collective cooperation, right? Even banks are a collective cooperation at some level, right?
currency.
Yeah, currency. And those things aren't going to fall apart immediately. Currency isn't going to fall apart immediately. Banks aren't going to fall apart immediately. But I wouldn't be so much in the stock market after the cycle changes, because people are going to be very concerned about themselves. They're not going to be concerned about the other in the same way. And they're going to feel that things are falling apart. It's going to be more than just you can smell it. Right now we can smell it and we could taste it. It's not the full reality yet. But a lot of the ways that people operate on the material plane, make money, is through a collective and tribal cooperation. That if we do this together, you know, we can all prosper, for instance. And that's not the way that this coming background frequency operates. In fact, this coming background frequency is going to be more concerned about individual acquisition of material resources than now. Right now, our acquisition of resources is still important when it comes to others. And some people will be like, well, no, they'll say, you know, people are individualistic, this or that, right? Right now, we're still in a time that is,
This word selfish and this
mm,
word individual. And I want you to paint for me what it looks like in 2027 onwards for somebody who is really living that pure, selfish individuality.
I mean, it's not to allow anybody or anything to have power over you. That's what it is to be an individual. It's not to allow something to impose power on you, not to allow someone to impose power on you. Mm. Not to listen to whatever, whoever says that they have authority. because you live through your own authority. You are your own authority. My life and what happens in it are largely a matter of my inner authority. You can't control life from happening to you. Everything is moving. Everything is moving. It's moving very, very quickly as we move through time and space. Can't stop life from happening. The decisions that you make, making those from a place of your own inner authority, as opposed to what somebody tells you you need to do or you should do or this or that changes your life largely. Because, sure, you can go to somebody that's correct for you to give you a second look. You're still going to make that decision through your authority. It's not allowing anybody to have power over your decision-making process. Sovereign is to act out of your authority. To be correct is to act out of your authority. Not because of what this person says or that person says. It's not about that whatsoever. It's about your own inner authority, which again is not a process that happens in isolation. Not really. There's a part of it that it does require just you, but we're not here to be alone. We all need connection. We all need other beings, and we need other beings that are also for us in that process. When we look at selfishness, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at selfishness. And when we're looking at selfishness, this is, and we like to call it enlightened selfishness in human design. Enlightened selfishness. So selfishness in which you are aware. And you're aware not only of your own selfishness, but why you need to be selfish, why that's required. When there's no social contract to fall back on, there's no safety net, there's a need to be selfish. People that are somewhat, I'm not a moralist, but somewhat morally sound, those people that are somewhat morally sound, things that they oppose are also part of the cross planning. Chattel slavery, cross planning. We have had more genocide and more exploitation of humans during the cross planning than at any other era at any time in our whole species existence has happened during the past 400 years. And so the cross planning is not sunshine and rainbows. This community stuff is not sunshine and rainbows. It's really not, because it's false community. I was in London with a close friend of mine, Amy Lee, and our friend Natalie, and we were eating at this really great restaurant, fantastic restaurant. It's a Japanese Mexican fusion restaurant. It's fantastic. One of the best places I've ever eaten. Of course, we're eating outside, and it's later in the night. It's later in the night, and in the UK, a lot of places in Europe, they're not big on tips, right? It's not a huge thing for them, right? A man came by, and it was panhandling, and without a second glance or a thought, I just said no, and I went straight back to eating. And my friends are very generous. And so they were a little bit taken back by it, like, whoa, Brayton just said no and went back to eating just completely because it was just nope. And I went back to eating like he didn't even exist. Then we finish dinner. I pay for dinner. It's definitely not an inexpensive dinner. And I tipped 70 pounds. And they were like, yeah, because the contrast of that, the contrast of no, don't talk to me, to here, I'm going to tip you what we paid for one of us to eat. The contrast of that is very different because it's rooted in what I wanted to do. It's rooted in what felt good for me. It felt good for me to give excess resources to this fantastic waiter at this great restaurant that we had already eaten at 3 or 4 times before. That felt good to me. Pay for my friend's dinner, give a really good tip, That felt good to me. Panhandler, I didn't care. Even if I knew it was genuine, even if I don't care. I don't know this person. There's been no interaction. This is just a random person. It's not that I'm not a generous person. Anybody that knows me knows I'm an extremely generous person. As one of my main overlying principles is to be generous in life. However, I'm generous where I want to be. I'm not generous based off social conditioning.
Personally, when I hear that, I think, well, that's very healthy because that also keeps you from feeling resentment, right? Like, I have to help because what? Somebody's forcing me to. So it's actually a very clean, constructive energy on both sides. Somebody gives you something that you think is pleasant and you give something back. You enjoy giving to that person.
Mhm.
And if you don't feel like it, then why put that resentment into the energy mix, right? Instead, you're just like, this doesn't feel like a healthy, constructive interaction. So, no, thank you. You're not being an asshole about it, but it's just that you know yourself. And also, I guess because we're starting to change over to this permanent 2027, the background frequency as well. I've noticed this. People are trying to guilt other people. We call it virtue signaling, right?
Mhm.
Cancel culture. You
Mhm.
should, you must. And even if people are very generous people to begin with, after a while, it's sort of like fatigue. I'm
Mhm.
tired of everybody canceling each other. This doesn't seem logical. Let people live. Should be very empowering to hear for everybody's because it's like we all, our individuality is going to be so much more honored in the future. At least the vibe in the background is going to be much more empowering to be like, you know what? I'm a pure individual, so I'm going to do it this way. But you don't have to do it that way if you're more of a collective person. You can do you. And the background frequency is going to be like, yes, not monoculture, diversity. Lots of people doing their own thing. In fact, if you like it, I love it for you. You need to do it the way that you're supposed to do it because that makes everybody's life easier, better, healthier. It's sort of like put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you worry about other people. And hey, if you do that, then actually, if you are a collective person and you're worried that, oh my God, everybody's going to be so selfish in the future, it's like, no, you're going to be even more effective, right? At helping the collective if that is your design. And by the way, most people have a combination of individual, collective, tribal, all that. So depending on your authority, I mean, if you know yourself, then your authority is going to be there to help you as well. So this sounds like a win-win to me.
There was something that Ra said when he was still alive. He said that after the cycle changes, the lost will be found in groups. And what he meant by that is that those that are lost won't be making decisions out of their authority. They'll be found in groups because they need other people to think for them. When you live a life through strategy and authority, when you live your type, whether you are a generator, projector, manifestor, reflector, you no longer are submitting to an external authority to tell you what to do, to tell you how to live your life. Right? And in a time where there is no structure of people telling you what to do, that you need to go to college so that you can get hired at a corporation, right? When that's no longer there, when it starts to matter whether or not you've gone to college, which we see that already, when those things start to fall apart, who do you go to ask what you need to do? Wow. You can come to a projector and the projector will give you guidance. Absolutely. That is a very large part of this next cycle. However, that projector isn't going to tell you what's right for you. That projector is going to guide you to what your authority is going to designate.
I mean, if people really think about it, this is what Carl Jung has been saying for like a century, which is the individuation, talking about the actualization of the human being is the individuation of a human being, not trying to be part of a group and be, that term NPC,
Yeah.
like or just sort of like sheeple.
Hmm.
Those days of being safe in a group, I mean, you're actually less safe in a group than you are being. And I don't want to even say main character because I think a lot of young people, they may take it a little too far. And
Mhm.
again, talking about that rigid mindset, which is, I'll just do the very opposite instead of, no, it's not the opposite. It's what your authority and your type is trying to tell you. And that requires nuance, self-awareness, all that stuff. So it's not just, oh, we shouldn't be part of groups where I'm just going to be a loner. I'm going to be a nihilist. I'm going to be whatever. It may be correct for some people, but for a lot of people, it's not going to be correct. So let's talk a little bit about, speaking of all that, let's just go a little bit more generally to the types,
Mhm.
because 2027 is going to affect the different types and different authorities generally differently. Maybe this is sort of like a general direction. Of course, you should know your own human design really well, but in general, let's talk about manifestors, because I feel as though what's in store for manifestors from 2027 might be radically different from what people might expect.
They're living in a time that is no longer for them, really. I mean, even right now they are. Manifestors ruled up until 1781. They got things done through their anger. You know, the not self manifestor got things done through their anger. Whips, crosses, you know, we're gonna we're gonna beat the generators until they do what we tell them to do. This is the old seven-centered manifestor. We don't have those anymore. We have nine-centered manifestors. This is the old seven-centered manifestor. You know, we're gonna get it done by any means necessary. You know, that is the old seven-centered manifestor. And we still have some of that conditioning in our species today heavily. However, that's not what we are. And what we're looking at as we move into this next cycle is we're looking at a cabal of the generator and the projector. That's really what we're looking at. We're looking at a time where the generator and the projector collaborate. The generator and the projector are locked in with each other and interdependent. Okay? The manifestor has nothing to do with that process whatsoever.
Didn't you
So,
say something like how they're going to quote unquote retire in 2027?
yeah, I mean, they don't really, you know, they don't really have a place to be involved, really. And the not self manifestor is going to get very activated by this and they're going to feel some type of way about this. But this is the fact. This is the truth of it, is that they don't really have a place. Does this mean that they're not useful? Does this mean that that there's something that's going to come from them? No, it doesn't mean that. But in the overall program of the evolution of the nine-centered human, we're not going to be relying on not self anger to get things done, to get things built by generators. We're going to be relying on projector guidance.
What does that look like? A healthy
Well, I
manifestor?
mean, they're free. They don't have, the thing is, they don't have an obligation. I'm a projector. I have an obligation for the rest of my life that I have to guide generators. That's the job. I was incarnated as a projector. I have to guide generators. The manifestor has no responsibility in the next cycle other than living out what they are, which has a massive impact, pun intended, in the world. Manifestors, they make things happen. I would not be in design if I wasn't initiated by a manifestor. There are thousands of people that would not have their differentiation benefited from. There are 1,000 people at least that would not be awake. And that's just one manifestor initiation. So a correct manifestor, a manifestor that actually lives as a manifestor, they are just impacting things and changing things and having they'll create a spark for something to come into the world. Of course, we have different designs, there's different ways that happens, but whether they're providing support or they're providing empowerment or they're sharing something with somebody, they have an impact. And that impact has an effect. Mhm. Now, the best manifestors, the manifestors that live life as manifestors, they're never even concerned about that. They're never even thinking about how can I make an impact? Is this going to be impactful? No, they're just living their life and they end up having impact, trying to impose on others. Right? Their signature is peace. It's peace. Right? I mean, peace is really manifestor propaganda. That's a different story. It's for a different time. Um, you're not going to have peace if you're trying to rule over people. You know, the only way is if you truly do rule over people. We see that in our history, right? So the best manifestors are very interested in other people. J.R.R. Tolkien, Albert Camus, okay, Aldous Huxley, James Baldwin, all manifestors. I mean, look at the reflector. The reflector is a non-energy type, about 1% of the population, and their role is very different in that they're here to evaluate groups of people. So because they're a non-energy type, like projectors, and there is a interdependence that is there. They're non-energy types. They don't have Seiko energy, just like projectors don't. And the thing about the reflectors, it's extremely difficult for the reflectors to really fulfill their role without projectors getting their shit together, because beings have to be organized for the reflector to really evaluate. So it's largely up to the projector to be correct and to coordinate as a type so that the reflector has groups of beings to really evaluate. And they're here to evaluate what the overall conditioning is of a group of beings. They very much need groups of people. They, I'm a projector, so I can thrive in just one-to-one interactions. Still here to organize groups of people, but reflectors really need groups of people in a different context than community. Um, but they do. They're very collective beings as a whole, in that they are here to evaluate groups. You know, for instance, I have the channel of inspiration, so I can organize 15 people instead of 5 people. Every projector can organize 5 people. I can organize 15. Right? So I want to have a reflector present with me that can evaluate the conditioning that's happening to those beings, that's happening through the program, or that's happening through me. I want a reflector that's there to evaluate that, because they can. They can evaluate it, whether or not it's healthy, what's happening through the neutrino stream, through the program. They can evaluate that. They have the capacity to do that. Right? Just like I have the capacity to guide, they have the capacity to evaluate.
Most people are not self. Most people are not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it sounds as though there's going to be a huge mess. A lot of projectors and a lot of generators are extremely not self. I know that most generator types are trying to be manifestors. And it seems as though a lot of projectors are trying to be generator types. So everybody's trying to be something that they're not. And manifestors are just always like Putin and Zelensky are both, I believe, manifestors. So it's sort of like, look at them, they're constantly getting into like issues. And reflectors are just getting sick because everybody's just so toxic. Um, so I guess the question is then, okay, if projectors are there to kind of get their shit together and then maybe help guide generators, manifestors are relaxing, reflectors are there to kind of support and to help projectors as well, but we don't have such healthy people. What can 2027 and the transition really look like realistically? And what do we need to do to make sure it doesn't go down? I am not going to share my energy with a projector who is an NPC. And instead, I'll be working with and looking towards other projectors and other individuals who are going to give me value, not what society tells me I should be looking towards, but who I selfishly feel brings me value. And it doesn't matter how bitter a projector gets, like I will want what I want. And in fact, it's healthy to want what I want. And it's also good for the correct projector that I, as a manifesting generator, want what I want. because then it's going to be such a clean interaction on both ends. It's going to be
Mhm.
so generative and creative. And when we were speaking earlier about it, it will be a great time of creativity and freedom for a great group of people. I mean, we started off by saying that this could be like the European Dark Ages, where sure, most people were really struggling, but there were pockets of communities that were going through great intellectual revival, and they were setting up the stage for later on the Renaissance, the Enlightenment. So people
Mhm.
were also thriving during the Dark Ages, but it was only people who were kind of living their best seven-centered lives. And
Mhm.
so it's like, as a projector, you need to live your best life so that, like you can guide generators who are also living their best life. And then you can be part of a very authentic community, not a fake community.
I like everything that you just brought up. I think it's fantastic because it's that's what we're looking at. We're looking at, how I said that there's a cabal, a collaborative cabal. That's the generator and the projector, right? The generator is designed to give energy. The sacral response, in fact, is about giving energy. But a generator is not going to respond to a bitter projector.
No way.
No. A lot of what the projector experiences in terms of being able to get sacral energy is essentially siphoning. It's not the actual mechanic that is there. And the mechanic that is there is that the generator responds to the projector, recognizes the projector, and invites the projector. You're a great example of that. You've been with me for almost 4 years now,
Yeah.
right? We've been working together for almost 4 years now. That's an example, right? Response, giving the energy, receiving the guidance. Is that the bitterness is felt in your aura.
Yes.
A bitter projector, that focus penetrating aura, that laser beam aura, when it touches another person, that bitterness is felt. There is nothing as repelling as a bitter projector. You don't even need to talk to somebody. You don't even need to interact with somebody as a projector. If you're bitter, they're not going to want it. I mean, I don't, the
Mhm.
people, myself and the people in my life, we don't want it. No. The projectors that I'm close to, which I'm close to many projectors, I know hundreds of projectors, I'm about 1,000 I've worked with, and we all know the difference between a bitter projector and a projector that's experiencing success. So it's very clear to a generator. A generator is here to be penetrated by the projector aura, to have a projector penetrate their aura and lock onto their identity center, lock onto their G center, lock onto who they are. Right? That's not going to feel good if it's bitterness. But a successful projector, generators are very attracted to a successful projector. The energy is clean. You know, that focus penetrating aura that's going to go into the generator is clean. The generator is going to feel good. And also, on the other end, they're going to give the projector clean, good energy. So without each other, none of it works. It doesn't
Yeah.
work without each other. There is no success for the projector without collaboration. There can be material success. Sure, you can get money, but that's not the signature of success for the projector. It requires being recognized. It requires being recognized. Some level, it requires being invited. It requires fulfilling that invitation. So it's one thing to money is one thing. It's funny when I teach projectors, I work with projectors. I say money can buy happiness, but it can't buy success.
Right.
Can't buy
100%.
success. You know?
In fact, with the right projector, I feel more energized,
Exactly, because you're
giving energy.
responding. You're responding to that projector. You're responding to the guidance. And so every time that you respond, you generate more energy. That's why we call you generators.
When it comes to like the straight up grind, I can work 48 hours straight on something that excites me, sleep for 2 hours, get up, do it again, and just do it again and again and again
Mhm.
and again.
Mhm.
And instead of getting unhealthy and ruining my health, if anything, I feel tired, yeah, but I feel really satisfied, energized, ready to go. So when a projector gets really bitter and competitive, it's sort of like, why are you trying to do something where that's not the animal that you are?
Nobody can keep up with generators. Nobody. Manifestors can't. Nobody can keep up with generators. Nobody. The generators are the life force of the planet. There, as a projector, there is a need. It's not optional. If you're a projector, you need generators. Like you need generators. It's not optional. You need generators. If you are a projector and you are an entrepreneur, solopreneur, anything that you don't have a corporation to fall back on, you need generators to do the things that you don't have the energy for. You just do. Uh, and generators need projectors. They need projectors for the guidance so their energy can be guided in the way that's going to make them the most satisfied. It's never about telling the generator what to do. It's never about um, imposing or having any sort of control over the generator. It's about guiding that sacral response of the generator to where they're going to output energy in a place that is going to bring them satisfaction, which is a very different function from the way that the manifestor was. The seven-centered manifestor was, well, I'm angry. I'll use the whip if you don't do this. All right. The generator was enslaved until we became nine-centered, and that started to go away. Manifestors ruled. Projectors not here to rule. Projectors can't see themselves. They can't. No projector can see themselves. We can't. We can't see ourselves. That's a reality. And that's because we're designed to see others. We're designed to recognize others.
Can I
I
just say
still have a
how
long
much
way to go.
I appreciate how much projectors, if a projector puts in that much time and effort, because for a generator, it's kind of a simpler formula, to be perfectly honest. I think generator types overcomplicate this, but I can just say from my personal experience, um, when you're with a projector who has like self-development and self-awareness and they don't have bitterness, and you're around a projector like that, all a generator needs to do is just kind of like, I don't know, express themselves, talk and whatever. And then the projector, they'll know what to say or what to do. And then I'll get a reaction, some sort of response back. Versus, I think a lot of generators, they do a lot of mental generating. Like instead of a person, they'll be like, oh, this YouTube video, oh, this book or whatever. Yeah, I read the book. I saw the YouTube video. Now I'm going to go to a projector and be like, hey, I saw this YouTube video. I saw this book, and with another person, with another nervous system. I'm going to make sure that I'm not doing something just based upon my mental thoughts of something. Instead, I'm going with an actual nervous system. This is how I keep myself from fucking being deluded and like thinking I'm responding to something, but I'm just it's almost like a meta spiral of doom when a generator is just responding to their own thought. It's like you don't know if that thought is a conditioned thing. You don't know if that thought is whatever it is. It's your imagination. You need another person. This is why when projectors get all offended that, oh, are we at the beck and call of a generator? It's like, no, you don't understand. I need a clean energy projector so I don't take my energy and basically burn myself out doing some wacky shit. You know, I don't, I've tried this where it's like I read a book and I was so hyped. I saw a YouTube video, I was so hyped. I saw something on the street. No other person was involved. It was just me and my own thoughts. And I was so hyped. And I thought that was me responding. And in some way it was. But when I go to a projector and I discuss it and I talk about it and I get a response from that, that is a completely different animal. It's so, in many ways, it's very formulaic. It's like not that complicated. And in some ways, the shortcut to success for a generator is find the right projector for you, talk to them regularly. There's a reason why, like, we've been working for a couple of years. Like when things are slow in my life and I'm just chilling, that's one thing. But if I'm like ready to do some stuff and I want to make sure that I'm not deluding myself, of course I'm going to go to a projector. Why wouldn't I? The formula is pretty simple. I don't need to make things complicated. It's literally written there for a generator. And I think that Ra Uruhu, in fact, sometimes when I hear him talk about generators, it's like he's just like about to orgasm because he's just like, oh my God, generators, it's like so amazing. They just like
Yeah.
respond.
I could work with 6 generators. I would take less energy than if I work with 3 projectors. I tell projectors this, you know,
I believe it.
so that they understand how much of a problem they are. I have to take a projector for me to start to wake a projector up. They have to go through about 20 hours of education. That's the beginning.
Projectors, it's a lot more complicated than it is for generators. Again, I feel as though generators, they overcomplicate things in a
Oh, totally.
way. Yeah, totally complicate things. All the success I've had in my life has been when I was able to sort of be kind of simplistic in that what does my sacral response like? Where's my energy going? That's it. If we try as generators, if we try to make things more complicated, because you know how modern society loves to complicate things, then you're
Mhm.
just going to twist yourself up and you're not going to be satisfied. You're going to be so frustrated.
I mean, to me, the generator is magic. It's like the closest thing that we have to magic that's just living and breathing is the generator. Mm. I mean, you look at the world, there's no, anything in this world that is built by a generator. The structures, the bridges, and all of these things. The material world is built by the generator. We don't have, I mean, generative field is something else. There are no children without the generative field. There, there's nothing constructed or built in the world without generators. So the generator is everything.
You know, if we actually want to help humanity in 2027 and beyond, what we want as generators is to, in many ways, simplify the overcomplicated process of what it means to make good decisions. It is literally as simple as what kind of gives you that little vroom, like little rev up of a feeling in your sacral center, not from what's generated in your own mind and imagination per se, but from what another nervous system. I know in today's digital world, it's like really easy to skip that, but from
Mhm.
another nervous system, like that revved up feeling, and then you go. And then not saying that it's easy, but it's not complicated. It may be hard, but it's satisfying. I have worked hours upon hours and grinded and grinded and grinded, but there was this feeling almost like I would imagine like farmers, you know, they work really hard in the field, but
Mhm.
they go to sleep every night feeling like, you know, I did something today. Like that is a very satisfied feeling. But the thing is that you can't do it by yourself. You need to be in a community, especially in 2027 when we're talking about pockets that will later on be like the Renaissance and like the Enlightenment. You need to be around people who are also selfishly, pure selfish individuals because that's a healthy thing.
A lot of people are counting on other people to take care of them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the state taking care of them, right? Or it's their belief system taking care of them, or it's their spouse taking care of them. There's a social contract. There's many social contracts that people are relying on and really expecting to be there, and those are going to go away.
I don't work with you because you make me comfortable. I'm not working with you because I feel warm and fuzzy, right?
Hmm. Right.
But some generator types will need somebody who makes them feel warm and fuzzy. You need to know yourself. You need to know what sort of projector that is the right fit for you, which may be completely different. Even if another person and I were both very similar looking manifesting generators, they may need a completely different projector. You need to know yourself. And I know it's a lot easier to just look at what somebody else did and be like, I'll just do what they did. That's the number one way you're going to really fuck yourself over in the future. Literally. That's like
Mhm.
the last thing you want to do ever is to say, oh, Chaweon did it, so I'll just do it that way. No, that's you're going to the doom zone if you do that. And I know it's a lot easier. And in the cross of planning, that was okay. Even if it was kind of not the right choice, there was some social support, something to help you. It's going to be gone. It's been gone, but it's going to like forever be gone February of 2027. Sorry.
To recognize that the only reason why the projector exists is to guide the generator. That is the only reason. And it's for this time. like I said, human design is not about the cross planning. It's about the cross of the sleeping phoenix. Because when that background frequency goes away, generators aren't going to be able to organize themselves, which means they need projectors to organize them.
I think, oh, I'm smart. I can figure it out on my. No,
Mhm.
I don't know what my sacral is really saying, and it's really easy to fool myself based upon wishful thinking. Like recently, like we were talking and I was running by like this frustration I was having over like business choices, right? And
Yeah.
I was going through it in my own mind for like a couple of weeks and I was like, what am I doing? There came a point where I was talking to you and all of a sudden I could feel my sacral, it like clicked. It clicked.
I watched it. I
Yep,
saw it.
we talked and the energy was there, but it wasn't this dysregulated energy. It was me. I was able to have this energy that felt like if I need to, I will fucking grind. I will do what it takes. It was like a confident, I will make it happen. It's done. It's like a farmer being like, this field will be tilled, that feeling. And I couldn't have never done this if I had just talked to ChatGPT about it. If I just talked to, you know what I mean? The way that I speak can be a little bit blunt, about this, but at the same time, it's like I've never felt that I needed to unblunt myself around you or like be less excited or change who I am. That's another sign that maybe a generator has found the right projector. You don't diminish yourself around
Mhm.
that projector. You don't
Definitely.
feel judged by that projector because they're not looking at you from like let's say social standards, they're basing it on energy,
Hmm.
and that's a very different feeling than feeling like, oh, I need to perform for my therapist or I need to like be sure that I say the right thing or else I'm going to ruin the vibe with my friend or whatever. So in that sense as well, I think it's very important for generators, like be your weirdest truest self, find the projector that is right for you, and you'll
Hmm.
know because you keep coming back to them even if they make you feel uncomfortable, and do not make big decisions where you feel a lot of it could be yes, could be no, maybe. If there's a maybe in you, that's a no. You know what I mean? So talk to a projector. And today, there's so many decisions that we're going to make because it's the beginning of the transition that are going to have huge long-term ramifications for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think a huge one is where we're going to be economically based upon choices we make today. I really think that now is an imperative time for generators to find the right projector to start getting guidance about that. Like real talk. Real talk. If you don't have a projector who's the right projector for you and is clean energy that isn't helping you, guiding you in your material, financial stuff for the next, because the economy is changing. I don't know what to tell you, but like there is a good chance that you're going to suffer because there's about a 5 year window, maybe even less, that the decisions you make will affect perhaps the next couple generations.
I've been delivering the same message for, year after year after year. And now I'm at 7 months crunch time, and it's like, whoa, okay, here we are. It doesn't mean that people aren't going to be able to make the the decisions they need to make after the cycle change happens, but it does bring a reality into it. It's like how important is your future to you?